Kia uta, kia mātarata, he tai I hi ake ana. Te are a te kura, he tio, he oka, he hauhu, ti e maruna. Heavenly Father, we thank you for many blessings and for this opportunity to be here this day, to hear the words of the potential Mayoral candidates. We pray now that those Spirit will be us, that it might be attentive, that be able to comprehend the messages that will be presented this day. We ask that a portion of that Spirit will be with us for the remainder of this hui, and we ask to open this meet the candidates meeting in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
So what we're going to do today is each mayoral candidate is going to tell you a little bit about themselves and why they would be best to run our city. So you get 3 minutes.
Let's kick this off, people. So my name is Tanya and I'm running for Mayor and I'm running for Councillor for the Matua Ultimotai Ward. So I'm looking for a 1-1 for you all. I grew up in the Bay and I was educated at Waikato University, and then I went off and had a corporate career nationally and internationally as a financial analyst. It was fun. And then in 1998 I came back to the Bay with my family. We bought our first small business, Harrington's Nightclub, and we ran. Always, every meeting. And we raised. I was behind the bar. Where was I? Right, so we bought our first business, raised a small family, and I became an active participant in the local arts scene. So we have been part of Tauranga and watched it grow, as many of you will have, from a small seaside retirement community to an emerging, vibrant city. And it is a city now. We live in a city. But we have a little problem that we identify still pretty much as a quite large, small town. And that is an issue. Small town values do not scale up. If you want to live in a small town, there are beautiful small towns around New Zealand, Morrinsville, Te Araha, Cambridge. But we are a city. And we need to embrace it and grow. And all our fabulous, vibrant diversity. So what does that mean for your community? Right, well, for a start, your community is as diverse as any community in our city. The problems that greet you in the morning are not the same problems that greet you in the morning. There is no one-size-fits-all solution to meet everybody's needs, and we would be foolish to try to do that. What we can do as a council is we can listen and we can learn. We can listen to your individual needs. Yes, we can follow and will baseline follow the guidelines, the regulations, the rules that have been put in place to ensure all of our citizens have access. But we all know that people and things still fall through the cracks. And sometimes the noisiest part of the community gets the most attention. The squeaky wheel gets the wheel. This happens. So the best thing we can do as a council is to keep those lines of dialogue open, those lines of communication open. And we need to go out to you as a community, not just wait for you to come to us, so we can include you in those plans for growth. Thank you very much for your time, people.
My name is Mayoral, and I came to this city 21 years ago, and during this time I seen the city growing, but I also witnessed the big wasteful spending in our council and around our city. So my message for my campaign is very simple. Stop the wasteful spending. If we can get our spending under control, then we can have all those nice things that we all want to have for our city. So now it's time to bring the the people to the council that actually know what they're doing, and not just talking about nice feelings and inclusion and all these things. Yes, they are all inclusive when it comes to pay higher rates. We're all inclusive when we're stuck in traffic, but not so inclusive when it comes to have good roading, housing and so on. So I want to run solid to cut the waste, the waste that we all see it on. We don't even need to get out of our cars to see how many unnecessary road cones are on the road. We don't need to get out of the cars to see how many people standing around on the side of the road when they know what they're doing. We have 1,200 people in the council that, I'm sure they drink a lot of coffees, but when it comes to the biggest problem that we have in the city, which is housing, for all these years, they can't mobilize themselves and sort it out. So all I want is to cut the waste, and hopefully we can move forward for a better city for all of us. When we're talking about just, for what do we want to do for your community? Yes, we all gonna tell you what we're gonna do for you. And we go to a different community, whether it's the youth community or arts community, and we're gonna tell them what we're gonna do for them. Yeah, it's easy to promise. I want to do for all of us, because we all live in this city and we all should tend to have the same things. So thank you and have a good day. Yes.
Morena, everybody. My name's Greg Brownless. I'm in a bit of a unique position of having been the mayor before, but not that one. And I managed to survive my 3-year term, leading a very, diverse group of people with different opinions. And I won votes and I lost votes, but we just continued on the same. I think it's very important for a mayor to be able to work with everybody and not to throw their toys if they don't get their own way, because we actually live in a democracy. So I believe that I'm a fairly inclusive type of mayor. To talk about things that might relate specifically to the disability community, many of these things are just common sense and actually don't cost a lot of money to implement. We're not often talking about big ticket items, but some of the things that I can think of are accessible and universal design. And that's something that's been tossed around for a long time, so that when you build a new property, you have an easy access, you have wider hallways, you have doorways that are wider as well, and handles that are easy to access. So that the concept that when I talked to one builder recently was lifetime design. So if you build houses that just about anybody can live in for as long as they like, I think that's an essential thing to do. And if we're not doing it, then we have to make sure that we put some sort of mandatory action in there, because it is so much simpler and better for everybody if it's done when a house is built. So lifetime design, you can stay in your property for as long as you wish, provided the council doesn't rate you out of it. Now that's a bit emotive, but I will say that some of the costs that are being imposed on the community at the moment with the long-term plan, I don't know how ordinary people on ordinary incomes can actually cope. And I do think that's a serious issue that council will have to tackle, which will affect everybody. Other things, accessibility to streets and beaches. And I know during my time we introduced some beach mats, and I think they were well used. We had a number of walkways. I remember taking my mother down to Mount Honganui, and because of the walkways there, we were able to wheel her around in a wheelchair where she could not have gone ever again if we didn't have those sort of things. So those sort of things we should be doing more and more. With our streets, where we have tables and chairs on the streets, it's all very wonderful, but I do know from some people in the disability community, when those things are put out higgledy-piggledy and not within their areas, it creates tremendous problems for people with disabilities. So we've got to do that. We've got to value events, and I know that this year coming up, the disability sports hosted by Parafed Bay of Plenty, everything from basketball to boccia. I think I've taken place and competed in some of those for a bit of fun. It's advised and personally supported those. So I will leave it off there. And if you like the sort of things I say, I value your vote. Thank you.
My name is Andrew Pye. I am a physiotherapist by trade. So I have spent a lot of my career working within the disabled community. I'm not going to pretend to speak for you, but I will try and give you my understanding of how I think council can assist you guys. But first, I like to always deviate these off to the side and start off with the thing that I need all voters to understand. Whether that gets me your vote or not, so be it. Tauranga is a city that cannot afford itself. And that is our number one problem. Everything else is secondary. Everything else that you might want doesn't really matter. If you want better roads, if you want better parks, if you want more community services, it all boils back to, how are we going to pay for it? And Tauranga has not grown into a city that can pay for itself. So that must be, whoever you vote for, you must ask them, how are we going to grow our way into prosperity? Because we're not going to cut our way to success from here. There is too much development, too much growth, too many people moving in. So we must grow appropriately. So that's my side swipe. So I'll get back to answering what you guys are here for. What can the council do for our disabled community? And for me, I believe that is planning ahead and beating minimum standards. Because it's always easier to plan ahead than it is to go back and refurbish or redesign something. And over time, standards usually improve. So making sure that we beat them, not like if minimum standards, like don't have a gradient above 6 degrees for your wheelchair. If that's the minimum standard, well then aim for 4 so it's easier. We're building new paths, make sure they're wide enough for 2 wheelchairs so that they can chat to each other. Simple things like that just show that your participation in our community has been considered as we are going through things. So you don't need to come and knock on the door and say, hey, we can't get in this building, can you give us a lift? So that's the gist of my story. Thank you very much for your time. I've been Andrew Pye. Please consider voting for me.
Anthony got up, that's all right.
What was that?
Cheer. Like I'm here because I've got an honest voice, much to a lot of people's disgust in the way I do speak, but it is the truth, and that's what I want to bring to the table. You know, running for mayor and for Tauranga Council, I want to listen rather than telling people what to do, because we've told people to do it so often, and now it's costing us time and money and effort, and that's not me. Like I left school when I was 16, become a tradie, and I just worked. That's all I've ever done, is just work. So I know the cost of the dollar and how to implement that cost into progression. We're failing at it miserably, and you can see it over and over again. I've lived in Australia for 8 years, had come from there, seen how cities should develop, and we've failed that miserably. So yeah, it's a shame to see how we've done it, and it's embarrassing, you know, coming from here to see it. So yeah, like I'm just here just to listen, and I want to implement what you tell us to implement, because there's no point in just telling you how to do it anymore. You know, it sucks. It honestly does, guys. So there you go, Anthony got up. Cheers.
Kei ngā tātāriki, kei ngā ihorei, o tēnā hapuri, o tēnā kāinga, o tēnā whaitua, tēnā koutou. Morena, everybody. My name is Ria Hall. I'm born and bred here in beautiful Tauranga Moana. I come from all of the iwi across this stunning space that we call home. So I am heavily invested for a number of reasons. And further to that, I'm a mother of 3 young children, aged 5, 3 and 2. Who are educated in Otu Moitai, and my oldest goes to Mona Tapu Primary, the school that I went to as a 5-year-old through to a 9-year-old. The reason I'm running for mayoralty, I'm hoping to bring a shift in the way that we think. I'm hoping to bring a shift in our dynamic, and more to the point, I'm hoping to bring a shift in the culture of the mayoral and council chambers. I know that for an extended period of time there's been a deficit mindset, and my job is to completely flip the script on that and look forward to progressing Tauranga into the city that it deserves to be but hasn't quite become. And for our disabled community, I know accessibility over and over again has been a major issue. So part of my suite of offerings and part of the things that I speak to is empowering people all across the board to live good lives. to live meaningful lives, to keep their mana intact. And so my role would be to advocate fiercely for accessible spaces that promote social cohesion and inclusion. I actually agree fundamentally with what everyone has said in terms of how they can deliver that. I think what's required is really, like what my colleague here just said, is listening to the community and what they want. Because the community should always be at the forefront of every single decision that is made by council, every single decision that goes through. And so I am really cognizant of that, and I'm excited at the prospect of being able to deliver outcomes, not just outputs, but outcomes that support the nuanced needs of every single person in this room. And so I'm here to bring that change. I'm here to implement that change, and I'm here to bring a young, fresh perspective that's also needed in the council chambers. My background, I have a political science degree. I'm currently completing my Masters of Regional Development, and I did all this before I realised I was going to throw my hat in the ring for this particular role. So for me, it's kind of leading to a pathway that it wasn't a matter of when, if, but a matter of when. And this opportunity has come to the fore, and I take it with open arms. And I appreciate your audience this morning. Thank you very much. Kia ora.
What I'm doing now is just right in the middle of everything is a message from Mahi Drysdale. Good morning all. First, apologies, I can't be with you in person. I'm very aware of the wonderful work the Western Bay Plenty Disability Support Trust and applaud them for the wonderful support they provide you all. I look forward to working alongside the Trust if you and I are elected as the next Mayor of Tauranga. Tauranga is a great city. While there are issues, Tauranga has a huge amount of potential. I grew up in Tauranga, and I'm passionate about helping Tauranga reach its potential as New Zealand's best small city. If elected, what I will do is make our community more accessible and inclusive for all disabled people. Listen, plan and deliver. I'm not disabled. I don't pretend to understand how hard that is or what it looks like on a daily basis. Therefore, we, the council, need to listen and understand how we will make it your life easier. What I can guarantee is I will engage with you, we'll listen, and unlike previous councils, we don't just say we've listened, tick a box and not deliver. I believe in collaboration and finding the solutions together. We will deliver, make your lives easier if we can't for any reason. I will be transparent and tell you why, so we can, if we can overcome these constraints, or at least help you understand. I will be accountable to you and all Tauranga voters. I will lead a team approach on council, and as we as council will work collectively to deliver in Tauranga into New Zealand's best small city. Thanks, mate.
Morning, my name's Donna Hannah. Today I'm standing for Mayor, and I'm also standing for the Welcome Bay Ward. So I have three things that I'm standing for. The ratepayers, basically that's first and foremost, accountability and accessibility and viability. There's no point creating budgets, making forecasts, making all sorts of plans when you don't have the budget for it, when you're exceeding your budget. So I'm planning to look at our serious budget, see what the shortfall is, and go, actually, come on, how are we creating more money? Where's that coming from? Some of my colleagues have talked about some amazing things that we can do. The reality for you guys, great boots on the ground, is what makes it easier for you. Now, I've been attending a few meetings, we're sort of on the circuit, and one of the things that's come out time and time again is that people are saying they're being listened to. People are saying that others are coming along and ticking the box that they've consulted, that they've heard the voice of the community, but in actual fact, nothing's been changed. And I kind of feel that's what's been happening. So we hear a voice, we voice our opinion, we say this is what we want to happen, and nothing actually happens. And we go away going, what's going on? Is someone going to get back to us? And for me, that's accountability. If you're asking the question, be accountable for the answer and be accountable for what you're going to do about it. Otherwise, don't bother asking. You know, you guys are living your lives and trying to get along the best you can in the environment that you've currently got. It's not fit for purpose. I look at just for one identifying thing, I look at the car parks for the disability. Yeah. There's not enough room to actually have a wheelchair come outside. There's not enough room to use a frame of any kind between the normal parks and the disability park. The curbing is ridiculous to try and get up. And even if you get out of your vehicle and then try and use a wheelchair, their way to get on the pathway is halfway down the area. All right, so now you're in oncoming traffic trying to get up onto the path. It's not good enough. You know, we should have the basics by now worked out. And that's what I am. I'm talking about, let's get back to basics. Let's fix those things that aren't working right before we start going grand scheme stuff. You know, because we want to make everybody's life that little bit easier, and it starts with the basics. And if it's a stall in a toilet that's not big enough, if it's a paper towel holder that's too high, if it's a sink that you can't even access, you know, these are all basic things and they're not right. They need to be made right, and they should be made right for council. Vote for Donna Hannah, one for Mayor and one for Welcome Bay. Thank you so much.
So I'm Terry Lemming, or otherwise known as Hoodie Bob, and I think I'll address the issues of new builds that happen in the city. I think the best thing that could happen for the disability sector is when there's a new build or anything done from now on within council that it is disability proof. So it's all inclusive. We need to be an inclusive society rather than exclusive society. And that goes for finance, but it very much goes for disability as well. Two pet projects that I stand for are a stadium. We need a stadium. At the moment, got plans for a 7,500 seat stadium, can grow to 10,000 with temporary seating, and that'll come in at under $50 million. And included in that budget is facilities for the disability sector. If you go to Hamilton Stadium, where the Mighty Chiefs play, and they're going to win it tomorrow night, so you've got wheelchair spaces in each bay of the stand. So I'm not quite sure what the wheelchair capacity is for spectators, but every single bay you'll go in on that second level and you'll see facilities for them. So we need to start thinking like that in Tauranga as well. Another one is a bus station. I'd like a purpose-built bus station down opposite Bay Court. There's enough room in there because I'm a tour coach driver and I know the value of that. That really affects me in the way I try to do my job. And we're standing jokes throughout the country as far as bus station goes downtown. And once again, that needs to be disability proofed, just like Manukau bus station. I'll point you to the Manukau bus station. Absolutely brilliant for the disability sector on how they handle things. And I've been able to take passengers from outside by the taxi all the way through to my coach with no problems at all, the disabled I'm talking about. So that's the way we need to think as a city, is as we build stuff from now on, make sure that we take everyone in our society with it, not just able-bodied people. Cheers.
Well, thank you all for being here. I'm Dr. Tim Maltby. I'm an engineer. I'm standing for Mayor in Mayoral Ward as well. If you'd like to know more about me, please have a look at my blog, timmaltby.nz. So I was born and raised in Tauranga, and then I went to university, and I went to university in England eventually, so I've lived and worked overseas for quite a few years, but eventually I came back. I was originally intending to stay overseas. My children were born over there, But Tauranga's home, so back we came. And in my opinion, Tauranga is probably one of the best places in the world to be born, to grow up, to live, work, play, retire, and just enjoy life. But one of the most important things is Tauranga is for everyone. It's for young people, old people, people of all ages, sexes, colour, social standing, whatever. And it's also for people with disabilities. You're part of our community as much as anybody else. And when we talk about disabilities, I mean, I'm retired, I'm getting old. I think we should also think about people who are sick, short-term and long-term illness, people with cancer, various sicknesses, but also the elderly are really another group of disabled in our city. And all of these groups need to be considered as part of what we do in the city. So as I say, I'm a pensioner myself, and as I get older, as we all get older, and we're all going to have to face old age at some time. Old age brings disabilities of its own kind, which, as I say, not exactly the same, but very similar in many ways. So the groups, disability, sick people, and the elderly, we've got problems with mobility, access, transport, housing, loneliness, problems with getting exercise, social interaction. I mean, the old-fashioned way of dealing with people that don't fit in, very Victorian, is you stick them away somewhere where no one can see them. And unfortunately, some of our old folks' homes and disability homes are a little bit like that. So one of the things that hits all of us very hard is the high cost of living, the way massive increases in groceries and rates, and a lot of people who are just on disability benefits or sick or elderly are on fixed income, so that's a very, very big thing in their life. So what can we do about it? Already? Sorry. Okay, well, I think the important thing is to actually listen to you guys and get the feedback from the disabled community, and then we can try and work in and do things for you. Thank you very much.
Good morning all. I'm Milton Nagels. I have lived in Tauranga now since 1976 and have worked as an engineer for many years in all sorts of infrastructure in Tauranga for the City Council, also tunnelling, railway bridges, viaducts, stormwater, sewer. So the key word for the whole of Tauranga, including the community here, is inclusivity. And in our future for Tauranga, we have to have a future where it is enduring and it's long-lasting and sustainable. Now, we have the trajectory we're going down at the moment is actually 1960s. We've got to bring Tauranga into the 2024s, which is 20th century technology, and a lot of that will be in transportation and housing. They are two factors that affect everybody that's living in this community. And the way that things are going at the moment is multi-million dollars being spent on roading and that. That's going to prove in the future to bankrupt the city. So we have to go down a different trajectory. I have the solutions and the ideas and know how to change that. And I draw from experience of successful cities all over the world, even the smaller than Tauranga, because Tauranga, those cities, the bigger cities were at one stage the same size as Tauranga, and they've grown. So we've got to start now, not in 20 years' time. The way to do it is forward thinking, and to have a plan which is affordable, is inclusive, and gives a result that every single person benefits. A plan for the greater public good. And it's not just for the people at the top, it's for just about everybody. And all cultures can use it. And I'm talking about trams and trains, which is an essential component for everybody to be transported around in. So I ask you to read my profile, standard candidate statement. In 3 minutes is barely enough to talk about all the methodology and how to achieve these things, but we can do it in an affordable way. We have done it in the past. We can do it again, and we must do it to ensure the survivability of our planet and the community, because this is the first time in history that we've faced the major issues of climate catastrophe, which really could threaten our very existence. Well, it is in some places, because people are dying of heat stroke, and there will be famines and all sorts of things that we don't want to think about, but we cannot ignore. So we have to think futuristically along the lines of sustainability and affordability and community happiness.
Bill Coastal, Doug Owens is my name. I was born and bred in this town. The Owens legacy is well known. It's still alive and well. I'm here. I've served 2 stints in local government, one with the Auckland Harbour Board 86-89, the regional council in 2010-16. I'm now offering myself again for the mayoralty. I had a crack against Greg Browners in 2016. He prevailed. Well, I'm going to have another go, and I'm looking for your support. Now, cutting to the chase, Jill kindly sent me the Accessible Action, Tauranga Action Investment Plan, AHE, which actually means enable, Māori. Has this been finalised, Jill? It actually says it's a working draft. It's all done? It's on the website. It's on the website. Well, this is the working draft I've got here. Right. The point I want to make is that anybody in life can become disabled. It's not just something that may happen as a result of genetics of birth. We are all potentially going to become disabled. And as a result of that, this city needs to be prepared. We all know that the health system is failing us badly. I'm a very big fan of wellness. I think that there's a big opportunity in the health sector to encourage wellness, not just as a philosophy, but as a technology. And there are many things that we can do to enhance our own lives and live long, healthy lives. Now, I can only say that if elected, this will be the blueprint for the new council. I received last night, I haven't been through all of it, but I can tell you that it will be front and centre for the council. There are many issues, of course, and everybody's vying for a piece of the pie. It looks as though, and I can see the turnout today, that you're a very active community group. You have a lot of support, and you'll certainly have mine. Thank you very much.
Morning, my name's Don Robson. I think one of the challenges in the political environment is a lack of honesty. And I'm minded of recently, earlier this week, mayoral candidates were invited to speak to the migrant communities, meeting in University of Waikato. And the most gratifying moment of that night for me was when a migrant came up to me at the end of the meeting as people were leaving and said, looked me in the eye and said, "Thank you for being honest." And I think that's one of the things that's missing from a lot of what we hear. I think people are well intentioned and often they speak of hearing, but what the person who's told they're being listened to hears is a promise that things will happen. And the point was made in the migrant community is politicians turn up, certainly every election period, every 3 years, say they're listening, tick the box, consult during the 3 years, tick the box, but nothing significantly changes. Listening is a skill, you can develop it. Now, I'm going to make a confession. I trained as a counsellor with Youthline a long time ago, and I haven't forgotten how to listen. I agree with what Tanya said about the diversity within the disability sector. And it's very easy to sort of get locked into one approach. You hear some people here think only about physical accessibility, but we know that disability is far more diverse than that. I have some degree of lived experience. My son Thomas was born in 2003, profoundly disabled. He died last year. I know what it's like to get by with a system that's not supportive. We never took respite in 19 years. I know what it's like to park the van and not be able to use the disabled parking because someone thought disabled parking meant putting a wheelchair sign on a standard car park. I heard Ria talk about a deficit mentality. And I think one of the things we do need to recognise is the progress we have made and we are making. And sure, it's not enough. All I can offer, based on my experience and a desire to be honest with you, is that the disability community, for obvious reasons, will never leave my mind. Never leave my mind. But I can't promise you results. And one of the reasons at the moment is because what everybody wants, and people have talked about all the sectors wanting things, the migrant community, the disability sector, we have housing issues, we have transport issues, they all require resources. Okay? We can't make promises without having resources. Thank you.
I'm Tina. I moved to Tauranga when I was 3, but have been around all sorts of places, Auckland and overseas working as well. I'm married to Mark, been married for 32 years. We have 2 daughters and 2 son-in-laws and a grandbaby due any day. So I'm very, very excited about that. Over the years, my experience has been very broad, from corporate to working self-employed, having small businesses, working in real estate. The last 14 years since coming back to Tauranga, my work has mostly been in the community, advocating and working with our communities. So working with those who have struggled with mental health, with disability. So it's not what I'm going to do for you, but actually what I've been doing with you already over these last 14 years that I will take with me into the council. I think it's, just follow my notes. A lot of the work that I've done also in the past 14 years has been in mediation and conflict resolution. So being invited into boards that have been quite tense and struggled with some challenges, and being able to lead through that and actually bring some amazing results for our community through working together in an inclusive way with people. One of the things that I really love to do in my time in leadership is to leave behind for our children and our grandchildren opportunities from decisions that we make today that allow them to thrive tomorrow. And I think that's a really important thing, that we can't be thinking just about the short term that we are in leadership, but what are we leaving as a legacy for those that come behind us? So my vision for Tauranga is to be an inclusive city where everyone, regardless of ability, can participate fully in our community, and to create a more livable and accessible city for all that has the amenities and the environments that contribute to a sense of well-being and empowerment for everyone who lives here and all who call Tauranga home. So 1 in 5 people in our city would say that they are disabled. So if we do the numbers, that's about 37,000 people in Tauranga would say that they have a disability or work with someone with a disability. That's a significant part of our community. And I think it's really important that we work together very closely with the sector and with individuals. So as a former councillor, one of the things actually I think there's a few of us here, one of the things that we were able to do and very proud of was to support bringing the trail rider to Mayoral. And I think that's been a fantastic way to allow accessible access to some of our very hard to reach places, but they're iconic for us, aren't they? So those decisions have been already made, and I'll continue to do that. I think loneliness is a big part of the experience of people with disability, and I'd love to find ways for us to be a more connected community. I think identifying accessibility barriers is important. And just in closing, I'm committed to ensuring that we have more affordable housing, more accessible transport, and ensuring that all can lead dignified lives here in Tauranga. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming along and thank you for inviting me. Well, it's difficult because, as you know, many of the people here are assuring you that they will do this, they will do that. But I can tell you absolutely nothing is going to get done until council itself is sorted out. We heard one of the earlier speakers say that there is just so much dysfunction in council and there is so much waste, and he's telling the truth. Hundreds of millions of dollars down the tubes. It has to be brought to account. Those people have to be slowed down and they have to be pulled back. And the only way you can do that is with a firm council and with a mayor guiding the process that's been there and done that. Now, I'm retired. I spent my life as an engineer and businessman, and I've seen a lot of these problems come up before. I've worked my way through them. I know how you can attack them. And as far as this particular community is concerned, I'll note on my little table here, if elected, what would you do to make community accessible and inclusive for all disabled people? What would you do? Sorry, I can't do anything. I'm only one vote in the council. What I can do is ensure that those council members have a policy written and passed by the council to the city council staff to make sure that building regulations, etc., primarily for the disabled, are enforced. That's what the council can do for you. Now, that doesn't mean that you or any other community can't come along and say, we've got a special issue here, and not expect to be listened to. You should be listened to. Your council should listen to you. The staff down at council should listen to you. The staff down at council shouldn't be making up their own wild ideas about what the heck they want to happen and start doing things their own way without even talking to council or the people on the ground. No, it's got to stop. There has to be a big change. There has to be a fundamental change in the culture within council, and there has to be a council elected by you that do understand and that are strong enough to make these decisions for you. So it's important that as voters, you choose people that you feel are going to be the ones to make serious decisions. Your future in Tauranga has been said before, I think by John, that you won't be able to afford to live here if the current 10-year plan goes ahead. You'll be having to find $200 or $300 each and every week to pay the council for the benefit of living here. Is that what you want?
Hear me? Right. The bottom line is, as elected councillors, we have very limited direct influence with the greater council. We only interact with the council through the long-term plan and the CEO. That is what our role is. However, I'm also aware that one of the mayors, in particular mayors and the council's greatest strengths, are the soft people skills that we bring to the role. We have influence. We can speak to the council, we can speak to the CEO, and we can ensure that they listen to us. Those soft skills are very important in the way we conduct ourselves as mayor. I know we have quite a large contingent of people already working with the diversity, with the diverse communities we have. I think I was speaking to, I can't remember your name, I'm so sorry, Calvin, and there are already 15 staff on this job. If I become mayor, I think that section of the council will be a very important place to use that soft influence. Thank you.
You stole the good question.
Okay.
Yes.
How would you ensure as mayor that the council pulls together to avoid the previous situation of the council? I think the disagreements within the council and avoid the commissioners that we had.
Okay, so we're talking about
I think
because
it's about working together and yeah.
as I understand, that's the reason why the previous council was sacked. Yeah. Well, I worked in a private business for entire my life, and I had, I employed many people over the years. I had to work in a team. I know how to negotiate with people, and the easiest way to convince people is when you bring common sense to the table. If you talk to people nicely with common sense, everyone can agree on those things. If we all started bringing our feelings into it, then this is what the arguments are. So I think common sense is very important to get people together.
I've identified that one of the key issues is accessible transport. If elected, how would you address this issue?
Okay, accessible transport. Make sure that all our buses are kneeling buses. I believe that's the regional council is already well down the track on that. And of course, they've also started a new service. It's like a taxi bus. It's only in Grierson at the moment. And I think that's a good way to get people using buses, disabled or otherwise, because it's certainly one of the things we have to do if we're to avoid congestion on the road. So yeah, absolutely work with the regional council who actually provide the buses to make sure that people can use them, because if they can't, then they're going to just drive around empty, rather like they do at the moment. Thank you.
Early question. How would you decrease the number of working aged disabled people who are not engaged in employment in our city?
Oh,
I know.
oh. Can I have the last question? Again, I think it's about, we often talk about inclusion. Another angle I want to take is visibility and safety. If our people from whichever community can see themselves in our society, then they're going to be more willing to partake and join in it. And that goes right across the spectrum from social groups to employment opportunities. And I also think it factors into our building standards, making sure that the buildings are accessible for potentially disabled workers or other disabilities. Yeah, no, I think that generally sums it up. It's a tough job for a local council, but within our remit, I think it's just making sure that the buildings are accessible and that our people see themselves in our community so that they want to partake in it. Thank you.
What is your leadership style?
Oh, this is a beautiful question. My leadership style. He's like, can I have that, please, Rhea? Can I have it? My leadership style is very, very simple. It's premised on relationships, with the community at the forefront. As you can probably hear, I wear very much my heart on my sleeve, and I think it's really important to lead with aroha, understanding, and empathy. So while that's a suite of mine, I also know how to make decisions. I'm a business owner. I'm also a mother of very small children. So it's imperative upon me to make good calls for my family. So I bring those suites of experiences to the fore, and I look forward, if elected mayor, to bringing that style and shifting the dial of the culture in the chambers through that way of being. Kia ora.
What does accessibility mean to you?
Accessibility is not about equitable. It's about actually making other people able to access the same resources as others. Doesn't matter what's going on in their lives, whether they can't walk, they can't move, whatever the problem is, they should have equal opportunities. And I think that's somewhat missing for a lot of for a lot of our disabled community, for a lot of our older community. And I think it's something that we go, you're supposed to be able-bodied, you're supposed to be doing this, you're supposed to be doing that. But you know what? A large majority of our community are getting older, are finding it a little bit more difficult, are struggling. And I think we don't allow for that in our society. I think as a community, it's about making sure the voice is heard, and it's about making sure that we can make it easy for everyone to be able to access the same things. So whether it's I always run out of time. My name's Donna. Thank you.
Information is power. For people who have learning disabilities, being able to access information is very important. If you are elected, how will you ensure that the information is accessible for all disabled people, for all people?
Well, first of all, I go to the disabled community and ask them what is the correct way to communicate to them and what the most effective way of communicating with them is. It's no good you running off thinking you know everything and putting in place something that no one else can use. You've got to go to the community first and ask what they require, what they need, and then as mayor facilitate that possibility through around the council table. Simple as that, really.
Are you going to put rates up? Why not?
I think we have to. I'm totally opposed to all the wild spending that we have, and I think we need to do our best to cut costs. And I really think that the council organisation, the staff, needs to be completely disorganised. But we still have to provide the basics: water, roads, transport, facilities. And unfortunately, we're stuck with a lot of decisions that have been made in the past. So yes, we will have rates increases. I would do my best to make our spending efficient. We've also got inflation, but there's a huge amount of waste. And the council is just a black hole money pit at the moment, and I think that's got to change. Thank you very much.
What is your stance on intensification versus greenfield development?
Intensification and
Greenfield development.
intensification is necessary because urban sprawl, as we know it, is the most inefficient and expensive way of human habitation in human history. And it's proven throughout the world. And to have intensification, we need a better transport system. And we need to move into the 21st century, not stay in the 1960s like our LTP. Our LTP is grounded on. I've been to transport meetings since 2018, and they're non-progressive. They're just like being in the 1960s. The question, I've already forgotten what it was now. I've gone on a tangent, but I have got no corporate agenda, and I'm here for the greater public good. I've got a great knowledge of all systems throughout the world and what's best for communities, and proven methodology and financing of these options.
So we've got a few questions around accessible housing, so I'll combine them into one. As we all know, there's a major lack of affordable housing in Tauranga. Accessible housing is even worse. What will you do about universal design in housing in Tauranga?
Cheers. Ladies and gentlemen, the big news this week was that we can put granny flats on all our backyards. So, you've got 50 square metres of accommodation, which will have a toilet in it and a nice comfy bed, and we'll look after grandma or a family member. I think that's a massive step forward. The intensification issue is very complex because the elephant in the room, doesn't matter what you're talking about, is that the infrastructure is not there. And we've got a renewal program, we've got a maintenance program, we've got a program to provide new infrastructure. And that's both in greenfields and in the existing suburbs. So my informed view is that the money isn't there for the infrastructure. So the cart's before the horse. We've got an LTP 10-year plan that's 4.9 billion. Are you guys going to stump that up for us? Over the next 10 years. We've got 10 years to give it to us. No, I don't think so. That's the answer. Thank you.
Okay. The commissioners have created the council's current 24-20 we've got 23, 24, or 24 to 34 long-term plan. The question is, what do you believe is the impact on our rates bills under the current plan? What will the change in our rates be in 2024? And do you support the current plan, or do you believe it should be scrapped?
Okay, if you wanted the answers to those questions in detail, you should have been at the meeting I had at the atrium last night. The effect on rates, well, they'll go up about 164%. So if you're paying $3,350 in 2024, you'll be paying $8,800 to $9,000 in 2034. If you're a single pensioner living in Tauranga and you're earning $27,000 a year now, that $3,350 in rates is about 12% of your income. In 2034, it will be 27% of your income, and that doesn't include your water bills and it doesn't include your regional council rates. The current LTP will literally rate the poorest people in our community out of their homes. That plan has to go.
A few public transport questions that have been asked, and one is, how will you ensure the safety of people using public transport?
Wow, that's a really good question too. So public transport is split between three different entities at the moment. So we've got the regional council that does the routes and manages the contract with the buses. TCC does the infrastructure. One of the things that they have put in place recently has been around security at the bus stops, but I don't think that is actually enough. So I think one of the things that I would do is, rather than making a promise on how we would change it, is actually have the conversation. So as part of my strategy going forward is to have lots of these conversations of getting people in the room and solving these problems together, because I don't think one of us or even 10 of us can actually solve it, but I think together we will have solutions.
And actually there's a perfect amount of questions, and the last one is also around using buses. And the question is, people with disabilities, disabled people, can't go out a lot of the time when buses have stopped or where there's disruptions to buses, or that when there is bus stops that you have to walk too far to be able to get to, it's actually inaccessible. What would you do to remedy that?
That's a tricky one as well, isn't it? By the way, I forgot to tell you, my name's Chudley Haggett. I was told in the intermediate that I didn't tell you who I was, but that's who I am. Okay, accessibility is what you're talking about to public transport. Now, the biggest problem, or what I see as the fundamental problem with public transport at the moment, is that we have the wrong sort of public transport. It's just not fit for purpose. These 70-seater buses that take up half a block to get into a bus stop with somebody there with a wheelchair is crazy stuff. We shouldn't be having anything like that. They should be much smaller buses, as Greg was saying, that kneel at the curb, or like the dial-up bus that we have now experimenting through Greerton, where you've got a chairlift in the back of it and it comes right to you and then takes you right to where you want to go. So that's where we should aim all of our attentions to, and just get rid of these great big buses full of nobody.
I'm going to share something. Okay, it's entitled Living with Disability, written by myself. So, there's an amazing number of different disabilities. Some are obvious and hidden. Especially those who are neurodiverse, because they're very different. And there's several people in this room who tick that on. It's a challenge every day. You don't know what will happen as your day progresses. Many tire easily as the day progresses, and that's a fact. Attitudes and assumptions for many people are very negative about people with disability because you don't know what it's all about. Challenge the negativity. Oopsie. Sorry. Okay. Discrimination. There are limitations for what we can do and what we can't do. Exceed your expectations. There are changes of the environment, or challenges actually. Universal design should be mandatory for all users. And I noticed several people are using that term, which is really good. If you make Tauranga accessible for disabled people, you're making it accessible for everyone. It's not a down, it's an up. And that's a now and in the future. Somebody else mentioned this too. We are all one accident away from disability.
Yeah.
So we are all very susceptible. 27% of Tauranga's population, that's a big percentage, more than a quarter. That was on the last census. That's a very important and relevant statistic. I would now like to have the last word.
Inoi tātou, kia tātou katoa, whae o tō tātou, ariki o ihu kraiti, aroha o te atua, whiwhinga, tahitanga, wairua tapu, ake, āmeni.
Amen.
Heavenly Father, we thank Thee for the many blessings and for this opportunity to hear the Mayoral candidates this day. May Thy Spirit be with them this day, that they might be able to do those things which are required of them, that they might have their Spirit to be with them always. May we go in peace and safety, and that They will bless us as we depart this venue, that we might be protected and watched over during the remaining of this day. We offer up this prayer and close this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.